So, good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. It's Friday. You guys don't sound very excited. But the good thing is we have coffee again. We ran out of coffee, but there is coffee. I encourage everyone to please take a seat before we begin our program. I do see some empty seats throughout, the front rows as well. Before we begin, thank you. Great. Well, once again, good morning, everyone. Muy buenos días a todos. Bienvenidos. Let's start today's program by doing something different because why not? So are we ready? We do have bread back there if you guys need some calories and carbs. But okay, so clap once if you can hear me. Okay, let me say that again. Clap once if you can hear me. Yes. Clap twice if you can hear me. Great, wonderful. The good thing is that we're now awake and the coffee is working. The bad part is that you're not getting anything for clapping, so, we're tricking you this morning. Though today's grand prize is listening and educating ourselves about the great initiatives, incentives, grants, current and future projects, and businesses coming to our beloved city of Brownsville. A city which is rich in history, we're binational, bicultural, and bilingual. The largest city in the lower Rio Grande Valley. In fact, a city that's open for business, and that deserves a round of applause. My name is Esme Villarreal, and I am your very proud president and CEO for your local chamber. We're very excited this morning to host this event and welcome you to the fourth session of Friday with the City. The Brownsville Chamber of Commerce, in partnership with the City of Brownsville, welcomes you to hear about an economic development update from the City of Brownsville, Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation, and the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation. Please help me thank this morning as we acknowledge our generous chairman partner, the City of Brownsville, and Brownsville and Rio Grande International Railway, a proud member of your chamber since 1992, for today's event and for the delicious coffee and pastries, and most importantly, for making this series a success. Please help me thank the City of Brownsville. I now have the privilege of welcoming to the stage our great leader, chairwoman of the board, Maribel Baca.
Good morning, all. Thank y'all for being here. We're excited to see so many colleagues and friends from all over the Valley. Thank you for joining our conversation this morning. At this moment, I'd like to ask all elected officials to please stand. The mayor's here. Thank you, Mayor, for being here. Wait, how about we all stand? As we're great leaders of this community and region, it's Friday, we made it, and we all deserve an applause. Let's stand. So I'm excited to see you all here. I have to tell you a little story. Earlier, or later part last week, one of the companies I work with is recruiting an engineer. And to me, it's not just it's not important to recruit somebody to our area, it's to showcase our area. I had the opportunity to drive him around, show him Brownsville, and he was in awe. He's like, oh, this is happening here. And I'm like, oh, this is happening here. It was just amazing. I was really excited. So I'll get back to my introductions. This morning, I encourage you to take the opportunity to respectfully engage and ask any questions pertaining to today's Friday with the City conversation, as we have questions and answer session at the end of the program. Before I introduce our first speaker, I would like to ask that you please put your phone on silent. And with that, please help me welcome to the podium our bold and fierce Deputy City Manager for the City of Brownsville, Helen Ramirez.
Wow, being described as bold and furious, I feel like, man, like an animal at the tiger, like, woo, with the zoo. Anyway, maybe I had too much coffee this morning. 4 cups. Good morning, Brownsville. It's so good to be here, see you again. Just to kind of get an idea of all the participation we've been seeing lately with our events, how many of you went to the last Friday with the city when we talked about the fiscalization of our land use decisions, our Verduna report, and our code rewrite? Show of hands. Awesome. So it's good to see you back here again. That was Friday the 13th. I'm glad we don't have that date anymore. But in November, we also participated, the RGV partnership had Explore the Possibilities tour, and they started the first city that was invited to take that tour of redevelopment sites, new infill sites, and also our historic downtown. They asked, we want to start with Brownsville, and we're like, let's do it. And we had kind of that was an invitation to mostly members. I don't know if how many of you are part of that partnership. Any of you out there? So what that means is formalizing your membership, whether it's in the RGV partnership or our wonderful Chamber of Commerce, is such an important part of our initiative. Not only you participating and being here and taking that time in your morning to be here with us and listening to what we're doing, but also formalizing it through your participation in the Chamber or the RGV partnership. It just solidifies us as a leader in the Valley. So just take that into consideration when you're looking at your budget next year. Thank you. She didn't pay me to do this, I just. So this is becoming a habit. It's 2020. Some people think about New Year's resolutions and the habits to break. I would say we're not breaking this habit. And the habit that we have here is inviting you all to participate and be not only to really tell our story. You know, Mayor Mendez, I commend you in the State of the City. Those of you who went, we talked about economic development and the priority that it has for this mayor and commission. They are wrapping up their strategic visioning document report, which talks about pillars. And these important pillars speak to, one of them is economic development. And that's why we're here. That's why we're putting such a large emphasis in telling our story. A lot of people do not know what's going on in Brownsville, and you being here and talking to and networking and telling our story helps that become a reality. So they're gonna wrap, oops, I'm not Connie, but I work very well with her, and I appreciate her. One of the main things that we've just initiatives that helps economic development, activity, proactivity in any community, whether in Texas or nationwide, is the tax increment reinvestment zone. It's one of those tools in the toolbox that really speaks to, this is a 440-acre initiative boundary. It includes many of our important historic districts, our zoo. We're looking, I don't know if you know, you'll be a zoo master plan, its expansion. It's one of those once in a lifetime opportunities that you really get be a part of an expansion of the zoo. Just the fact that you have that economic tourism generator in the valley is important, but what you do with it beyond becoming a zoo, expanding into exhibits, we're kind of going through that master planning process, which is coming on very quickly right now. We're actually looking at proposals next week, finishing up proposals for award of contract. Another big initiative that we're looking at is part of that is telling our story. Last week we were at the International Council of Shopping Centers. You probably are very aware of this initiative, this retail and conference trade show. There were over 4,000 attendees, 60 different brands of restaurants and retails with their exhibition space, hundreds of exhibitors, and Brownsville was there. We were at the table. In fact, the booth police said we were spreading out too much with our banners, so I get this text from the exhibitor saying, keep it all together. But anyway, it was great energy. I mean, you could just see in the picture on your left is we're having two conversations going on at the same time. I mean, really great response. Met people that have been going there the last 10 years and said this is probably one of the best exhibitions that they've seen in the last 10 years. And it was great that Brownsville was there telling its story. You know, a lot of people, a lot of the big money is in Dallas, and just the fact that we have a wonderful airport that has an hour flight. We were talking, come in Brownsville. It's not, you don't have to drive. You know, you could fly. We have a wonderful airport that's being expanded, and you just can get in and out and really see the city. So a lot of people don't know about that. We have United and American, and we have those direct flights to the airport, and which is only expanded by the end of this year. So what's to come, and hopefully with the new airlines that we can bring to Brownsville, is very important in terms of economic development. So last time I saw you, many of you did go to the Friday of the City. We talked about the city hosting quarterly developer meet and greets. We are going to host one this quarter. People were asking me, let me sign up, when's the date? I finally have the date. I'm gonna let Connie announce the date, so you're gonna have to stay for her presentation. Don't worry, she's next. And just a little bit about Connie Constanza Minor. She's our retail and redevelopment manager. She has 20 years of experience, has a master in science and organizational leadership and public administration from North Central University. She's working towards an economic development finance professional certification. That certification is important because it really tells you it's the money part of the deal making. You know, you can learn deal making, but how you finance the deal is very important in order to bring a project from initial, you know, how you finance it, how you design it, how you build it, and how you develop it, and how it comes into operations. That deal making and understanding that component is so critical to any economic development deals, which I'm sure you know. So without further ado, come up, Connie, and tell them about all the great things we're doing. And don't forget to tell them about the date.
Morning. So I'm really happy that made the announcement about the copy early on so that you're all good and awake and ready to receive all this awesome news. So we're going to start with a couple of stats before I go on to the first slide. And we're going to discuss a little bit about the RGV's top 10 markets. So in terms of the market share in the totals of the RGV, Brownsville holds the second place out of 100% with 15.8%. As it pertains to the growth in the RGV, for the share that we capture, Brownsville slips to number 4 with 8.94%. And this one's the one that retailers look at the most, and this is the income per capita. The RGV per capita sales are, for Brownsville, slipping Brownsville to number 8. Why is this important and why am I bringing it up? Because when retailers look for places where they want to go and find their new home, they look at these numbers. So what does this tell us about Brownsville? That even though Brownsville has the ability to bring to capture sales from surrounding communities, we're not able to capitalize on those as much as our neighboring cities. Why is this important? Because when we have a choice where we buy, we have a choice where we shop, we have a choice in all of these things, and we need to be mindful that these choices actually have repercussions. If we believe in Brownsville and if we shop local and if we think Brownsville, we want to increase our chances by keeping our money within. This is our great opportunity to bring more retail your way. And having said that, can we click it? There we go, one back. So one of the greatest news is that we're welcoming the first RGV location south of Houston for the Black Bear Diner. This is great news. So we're going to be first to market in the RGV. Thank you to the work of Mr. Ricardo Rubiano, who is in the audience today. Black Bear Diner chose Brownsville to start off their franchises trials here in the Valley. So we're super excited to welcome them home. Permits have been issued for the shell, and the sign should be going up today. Next slide, please. Sunrise Mall update. So I know that we've all been a little worried about what's going on at the mall. So we're really happy to announce that the mall is being really proactive in the boxes that have been going dark. And our biggest news is that Sears box has sold. And what's even more exciting is that the new owners have exciting plans for this. So we are not at liberty to share those with you just yet, but wait for the special announcement that should be coming pretty soon, in a couple of weeks. So for the Agassi store that went dark, we will welcome Wave in its place. And for the charming Charlie Berzona, these are both expected in the first quarter of 2020. And the newcomers, we have 3 stores that are calling the Sunrise Mall home, and that's Aerie, Hollister, and Hollister has a really interesting story because it decided to come to Brownsville as a temporary pop-up shop. What they didn't know is that Brownsville was going to welcome them with open arms, and they're doing so well, they believe that they're going to stay permanently. So that was a huge win for the mall. And the other one's a creperie, which made their home in the food court for the mall. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk about downtown redevelopment news. And before I do so, I'm going to mention a date. So back in, I think it was 1909, the city of Brownsville was experiencing a growth spurt. And this building in particular opened its doors in 1909. This was one of the buildings that tried mixed use for the first time in our downtown, hosting the Brownsville drugstore on the first floor, and they had a mix of offices and maybe even, and I couldn't tell you for sure, but maybe even some living quarters in the third one. So this building for a really long time has been standing vacant. So from when it was born in 1909 to now, which is 2020, roughly 111 years later, this building is going to get some life breathed back into it. Its plans, can we have next slide, please? The plans are to renovate this building to host a restaurant on the first floor, and we will have a mixed use on the second and third floor, which is going to be comprised of apartments that are going to host 2 and 1 bedroom efficiencies. This is a great project that's coming to downtown, and it's being brought to us by Origo Works, which has been a really great partner in downtown initiatives. Next slide, please. This one in particular, I found, oh, and by the way, that drugstore was hailed to have the best ice cream in Brownsville, which was really cool. This one is the Hicks Livery Barn building. This one's located in 10th and Adams. It also was born in 1909, and it's also getting a complete makeover. It's being redeveloped, next slide, to become perhaps the home of the first food hall concept in Brownsville. The plans for that are on the first floor, and the second floor, we can go to the next slide, It's going to be housing an art studio, museum type of exhibit space, which we're really, really happy to be seeing in our downtown area. Next slide. So franchise opportunities, like Ms. Ramirez was mentioning, we had one hell of a show in ICNC Fort Worth, and we had a lot of people that are interested in Brownsville. These two franchises in particular are looking for franchise operators. So if you guys are interested in owning a franchise in the city of Brownsville, these would be a great conversation to have with these two franchisees. Last slide. And like Ms. Ramirez was saying, save the date. It's coming March 12th to the Olvera building, to the nearest Olvera building near you, which is actually in downtown Brownsville, so visit downtown. And please, this is my contact information. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. Smoke signals work. And Build BTX is one of the sites that we hope that you all go on there and subscribe, because this is something that in conjunction with BCIC we'll be kicking out to so that we can be providing updates to you all. And lastly, I want to ask you to please follow our retail and redevelopment page on Facebook. We always have a lot of information that we like to share with everybody there. So thank you. My 2 minutes are up, but it is my great pleasure to give way to Ms. Esme to introduce our next speaker. Thank you.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, let's give Constanza a round of applause. Before I introduce our next guest speaker, I welcome you to join me watch this video. And I'm going to pretend that I'm clicking. There we go. And I did it wrong. There you go. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation. Before I welcome Josh to the podium, I would love to talk about him a little further. Josh Mejia is the Executive Director for the community's Type B Economic Development Organization, the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation. Josh currently oversees the community's involvement towards creating a business-friendly environment for entrepreneurs, enhances all quality of life assets, supplements the city's commercial development efforts, and improve the city's competitiveness to recruit capital investment. Josh is a results-oriented strategic leader with over 8 years of combined experience in the fields of economic development, marketing, and government relations. Prior to working in Brownsville, Texas, Josh Mejia was the Director of Government Relations for Private Group LLC in Tyler, Texas, and was involved in several key transportation and economic development projects throughout the northeast and southern regions of Texas. Josh also served as a business operations manager for Apple Inc. in Austin, Texas, where he led the successful expansion strategies for the company's campus, which included the recruitment and training of over 500 employees in the company's Apple Care and K-12 support division. Josh is a proud native of Brownsville, Texas, with a bachelor's degree in business administration and from Brigham Young University, Idaho. During the past 12 months, Mr. Mejia has managed the successful implementation of BCIC's role in the community as an economic development organization without foregoing its past through its newly established Economic Development Toolkit, which focuses on the ability to proactively recruit targeted industries, catalytic public-private partnerships, and angel investment to the community. It is my great honor to welcome to the podium a great colleague and friend, Mr. Josh Mejia.
Thank you so much, Esme, for the introduction. I wasn't sure if they were going to play that video in the beginning of my talk, and I feel now that the video's done all the talking for me, so I'm going to go ahead and step back into my seat, right? But I'm going to try to be very brief with the update that I'm going to go ahead and provide you all on behalf of the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation. And I want to talk first about what we're trying to do as your Type B Economic Development Group without forgetting our historical past. And part of this is playing an active role in what we call ecosystem building and the type of environment that's going to foster the growth that we're looking for as a community. And that type of growth as well should foster that innovation among the human capital and in our pursuit of attracting that economic development investment into the city. So if we can go to the next slide. So as you all may already be aware, the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation has adopted a new logo, a new brand that reflects the role that we're playing in economic development for the community. Some of the items that we're adopting for economic development strategies are listed here on this slide. I'll be talking briefly about our new economic impact grants, working in collaboration with the city. Like you all saw my mug on the earlier shot where we went to ICSC in Fort Worth last week. We're working in conjunction with the city to be able to provide strategic retail to be able to enhance the tourism effect into our community. In addition to this, we're also working with the Business Improvement and Growth Program. As many of you may all be familiar with, we call that the BIG program. We essentially earmark $600,000 to be able to recruit businesses into downtown and start activating some of that redevelopment. And I'm happy to announce that the $600,000 that were intended for 3 years are almost depleted in that first year mark and has attracted over $1.1 million in private investment into that area. So, thank you. That's a team effort, by the way. That's staff and that's everybody at the city also participating in this program. In addition to this, I'll also be talking about some new programs such as the Startup Texas program, the eBridge Center, which is intended to be the largest entrepreneurial center of its kind south of San Antonio, so that's another flagship product that we're working on. We're also working on harnessing the potential of opportunity zones that are in our area, and I'm so happy to hear, as soon as I came in, I'm talking to folks that are already talking that same language about what we're going to do with opportunity zones. So that's one of the opportunities that we're seeing here, since it's encompassing a part of our historic downtown. And we're also very happy to partner with the Texas PACE Loan Authority, or the Texas PACE Authority, to provide a loan program which helps developers go green by essentially mortgaging that expenditure into the property taxes that are actively being paid for those properties. So I'll be talking just very briefly on a couple of our key programs that we've now adopted as part of our economic development strategy, and we'll begin with the eBridge Center for Business and Commercialization on the next slide. So you might have already heard some of the story behind eBridge. We've spent over 2 years planning and working toilsome with some of our key partners, such as the University of Texas of Rio Grande Valley, the Brownsville Chamber, SBA, to be able to approach a challenge that we had in our community, which was how do we foster small business development in a way that allows for these businesses that are being grown here locally scale up and attract new markets. And throughout these 2 years of extensive conversations that we've had, we all collectively decided that the best approach is to consolidate all the fundamental resources needed to be able to make that happen, to be able to have businesses scale up and reach new markets. And hence, we went ahead and developed what we call now the eBridge project. The eBridge project was pitched left and right. We started testing the waters, enough so much that we actually got the attention of our friends at the Economic Development Administration. And thanks to their encouragement to apply for one of their prestigious grants, I'm excited to announce once more that we were awarded with $900,000 to develop a 36,000 square foot building in downtown between the 13th and 14th Street on Adams. So I'm happy to provide you all with an update on our timeline. We're actively working at the moment this month on wrapping up the architectural work that's going to be the frame and the design of this building, in hopes that by February we can begin releasing a construction RFP so that we can begin the redevelopment of this building. Once the construction RFP is awarded, we expect this construction project to conclude within 14 to 16 months. So I'm crossing my fingers that there aren't any delays. We already secured our funding in hopes that we can open our doors by early next year. Now, a lot of entrepreneurs have approached either myself or colleagues or partners with this project and have asked us, well, can we take advantage of some of these programs that we are currently working on to release through this eBridge Center? And the quick answer to that is yes. You can either reach myself or any of our partners to take advantage of a lot of these programs. We offer programs such as incubation. We have a fast track program, which is an educational workshop that has been accredited by the largest entrepreneurial foundation in the world, the Kauffman Foundation. And we also have other programs such as 1 Million Cups, networking with VCs. We have permitted assistance that will be provided by the city as well. We take advantage of our grants that we have available as well, site selection service, etc. And I really want to take the time to emphasize that the programs that we're bound to launch or that have already launched and are available for entrepreneurs are essential to begin creating that culture and hopes to create Brownsville as a focal point or a capital of entrepreneurship south of San Antonio. So we want to be able to enhance some of that and work with the human capital that we have, which adds to the vibrancy and economic vitality of our city. And one of the key things that we also notice in our findings is that we keep on getting labeled as living in one of the poorest communities or poorest counties in the country. And that adds a very horrible stigma when we begin having these entrepreneurs talking to private lenders. Because as soon as you have an entrepreneur talk to a private lender, the private lender tends to just put this huge X in front of your face, and essentially speaking, it concludes to no approval for a loan, right, to be able to scale up. So we thought to ourselves, well, part of creating a culture, creating a community for these entrepreneurs, right, we need to address capital attainment. Because at the moment, thanks to the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, we already have 15 businesses that are currently being incubated as a part of this program, 3 of which have been identified as scalable businesses ready to create new jobs, to expand operations from within our community. And we're talking about businesses that range from the food industry to logistics, manufacturing, and tech. Yes, we're actually working with tech companies here in the community, something that I thought was impossible to do here in South Texas. But we have the resources necessary to be able to do this, and in collaboration with the city, we're also working on the infrastructure necessary for that. So when we came across this challenge, if we can go to the next slide, there was a quote that stood out to me that came out in a paper on behalf of the Research and Development arm of the International Economic Development Council. And the statement said the following: entrepreneurial firms create about 2/3 of new jobs. That's data that's being reflected at the state level as well. In addition, entrepreneurs also contribute to economic diversity and productivity in a community, which is true. Without the entrepreneurs that we have, and without the entrepreneurs that are willing to take a chance in our city, we wouldn't have the awesome luxury of going to unique restaurants, trying out the local taste, figuring out what's new in terms of retail and services. So because of that, thank you, we went ahead and launched the Startup Texas program, which is a seed fund not only intended to provide the funding resources to scale up businesses, but it provides essentially a marker that validates that the business is ready for further funding, in hopes that we can begin changing the perspective that venture capitalists have south of San Antonio. There's a reason why they don't come further down. This, we hope, is intended to validate that there is a market ready here in South Texas. And I'm happy to announce that we will have essentially two avenues that we can pursue with this. One, where we address companies that are already at that level that can scale up, and two, addressing companies that are about a few steps away from being at that level by providing them with the necessary workshops and training to get them ready to pitch for this seed funding, and essentially getting them ready to pitch for venture capitalists so that we can begin attracting some of that investment coming in, which is a new economic trend that we're seeing at a national level. So on the next slide, we're happy to announce the BCIC that we've allocated $100,000 as of January of this year for this fund. And we're expected to launch sometime mid-February of this upcoming month as well. So for all of those who are inspiring or aspiring entrepreneurs that are looking for that funding, we encourage you to visit www.startuptexas.com so you can learn more and begin applying for this fund. We encourage you. I mean, I've always told people, if you don't use the funding, I'll find another way to use the funding for something else. So please share the data, share the information, and invite everybody that you know, whether they're local or non-local. In addition to this, on our next slide, I wanted to talk about our new economic impact grant. And as a Type B economic development group, we're allowed to invest not only in assisting the recruitment of primary jobs through the industrial development that our sister organization performs, GBIC, but we also have that flexibility to invest on much more in terms of the quality of life that our community needs. Some of these things include athletic sports facilities, entertainment facilities, and so on and so forth. But part of the economic impact grant is really defined and designed to change the expectation of throwing all your incentive money to recruit businesses coming in. As you all may know, you probably are familiar with the story of Amazon Headquarters 2, where we had plenty of communities all across the nation that would just try to collect as much incentive monies to be able to throw at a company to be able to expand, which is good. The economic impact is there. However, for a community of our size, our resources are finite, not only for ourselves as a Type B, for our Type A as well. So we got to be very innovative and strategic as to how we leverage those funds. And you can kind of see that already with the Business Improvement and Growth Program, where we took $600,000 to be able to recruit more investment coming in. Well, the Economic Impact Grant is designed for that. We're taking the public-private partnership model and inviting anybody, whether it's a small idea or a large idea, which is an economic development project intended to promote the necessary growth and catalyze our city so that we can start seeing some of those economic development opportunities come into an area. This could be something as a much-needed full-service hotel, which we talk about over and over again in our community. Or it can be something as a strategic retail center, which we talked plenty of at the ICSC show last week. Now, the BCIC is allocating $400,000 to be able to leverage for this fund and be able to partner up with organizations and entities that are looking to produce some of these economic development projects. We have some in our list, but we invite the community also through this open doors policy that we have to come to our doors and talk to us. And that's key. We have to talk and be able to develop projects together so that we address every single facet of economic development, the type of economic development that we need in our community. And I'm happy to announce that the economic impact grants are available as of today. Ms. Corey Peña, which has a plethora of experience, she has over 5 years as well. And everybody, if you can join me in giving a round of applause for Ms. Corey Peña. She's been in our community for over 5 years in terms of working with the BCIC, and we're very happy to see her flexibility and her creativity being applied to this economic impact grant program. So I'm gonna throw her out there in the spotlight because her information is on the slide. Please save that information. If you know of somebody that has a project or an investor that's willing to come into our area, she's the point of contact. You can reach me as well. You can always, like I mentioned before, come through our doors so that we can begin the dialogue, the type of dialogue that is necessary and the type of collaboration that is necessary to be able to move the city forward. We hear you. We understand what we need, and we're trying to be as transparent to be able to address these needs together. And in conclusion, I wanted to provide you all this update. I can talk about some of the projects that we've been working on and that we've actually successfully recruited into the area, but I felt like it was necessary to provide you all with the update on what's going to make and create the next generation or the next round of economic development projects that we need. And as I was driving here this morning, I took the Morrison route, and I was reminded about all the opportunities that we have. We see that North Brownsville is just growing, but we also see the opportunities in downtown, the Boca Chica corridor, the Price corridor. We have a lot of work to do, and I feel like if I throw this update out to you all, the stakeholders, you all can come back and say, you know what, we also need this, because it's not just a 1 or 4 team project. It involves everybody together. So my contact information is in the next slide. I encourage you all to go through our doors and visit us. We're at the Young House and downtown. We actually share offices with our sister organization. Mario Lozoya will be up next to talk about his economic development update. But I encourage you all to save this information, reach out to me, Corey, Nathan as well, who's our Director of Marketing and Small Business Development. He's actually the creator of the video you saw before, and he did an excellent job for that, as well as Liseth Villarreal, who's our Operations Coordinator as well at the office. And I thank you all for the time that you've taken to be here and to listen to us, and I look forward to the great things that the Brownsville has planned for the upcoming year. Thank you.
Josh, thank you. Exciting things happening in Brownsville. At this time, I would like to introduce our mayor, Mayor Mendez.
All right, where's my slides? I just wanted to take a really brief opportunity. I wasn't on the agenda. I just wanted to talk really briefly and take this opportunity to let everybody know that and invite everybody to our first annual. This is going to be the first year we're starting an interactive South by Southwest style festival. It's going to be during the week of Charo Days. We wanted to actually find a way to, Charo Days, as you all know, is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we wanted to find a way to activate Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and make it a week-long event for our city, draw people from out of town, draw some people from the borders of other cities in Mexico as well. So what we're doing is we're launching the first annual Crossroads Festival. And where do we get the name Crossroads? Was actually came from an old Chamber of Commerce logo, which referred to Brownsville as being at the crossroads of the hemisphere. So that's where we got the name. It was born out of that. It's going to be several things at once. We're going to be having a music festival. There'll be 3 to 4 acts per day, and it's going to be downtown, Market Square area. And it's going to be music. It's going to be film. The film is going to be curated by René Ruiz, who's a local director and part of Brownsville Film Society. We're going to have a Mexican movie premiere. We'll probably have some actors and some directors. RJ Mitty as well, who's our local Hollywood guy, actor from Breaking Bad, is also taking part in that. He's been lining up some premieres as well. On the music side, we're still confirming the acts. We have some confirmed. We're going to be launching the lineup in the next couple days. The social media on this, Instagram is Crossroads BTX, and on Facebook it's Crossroads Festival, so look it up. And our website is www.crossroadsbtx.com. Really exciting, and we're also going to have a food component. We're going to have some chefs that have some Brownsville ties coming back home and having some VIP experiences for everybody. So it's going to be a really fun event and first annual. So look forward to seeing everybody down there. It's going to be February 24th, 25th, and 26th. So with that, I'll leave you. I just want to say, just being here is so exciting, seeing all the talent, the fierce and bold Helen, Josh, Esme, everybody else that presented. You'll hear from Mario coming up. And just an exciting time to be in Brownsville. I'm so happy to see everybody here. It's growing every time. And we're just going to keep the momentum going, and we're moving really fast. So thanks for being here, and thanks for believing in Brownsville. Thank you.
And now we'll ask you to see the next video. I'm happy to introduce our next speaker, Mario Lozoya. Mario is the former Director of Government Relations and External Affairs for Toyota Motor North America and was based in San Antonio, Texas. Prior to that, he was a manufacturing supervisor for the same company from 2005 to 2018. In his current role, Mario is responsible for creating economic prosperity in Brownsville, Texas, through economic development strategies to include education and workforce development. Mario has a strong background in government relations, media relations, corporate communications, community engagement, and supply chain management. Current boards he serves on are Jobs and Education for Texas Board, appointed by Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. He's on the PTAC Board, appointed by Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick. Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute Board of Director, current Board of Director. Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute Chairman, Governance Committee, he's currently serving. 2017 graduate of SMU, Cox Business School, and Executive Business Education of Ansar program. Mario has testified in front of the Texas House of Senate on issues related to education and workforce development and has been instrumental in changes to state policy related to the subject. Mario has co-authored related state legislation. He also works very closely with DOE and members of the Congress on issues related to education and workforce development. Mario was instrumental in establishing the 23 on-site supplier companies for Toyota Motor Manufacturing, Texas in San Antonio, Texas, at the time of the largest economic development projects in the state of Texas. Mario has earned 3 awards recognizing his efforts in creating education and workforce strategies. In 2013, Texas Workforce Commission Workforce Excellence Award. 2014, White House Initiative on Education Excellence for Hispanics, Bright Spot in America Award. That's Toyota Texas Backyard Strategy. And 2019, Texas Economic Development Council Workforce Excellence Award, We Grow Our Own Strategy. Mario's a retired U.S. Marine, having served 23 years of active duty. He is a Naval Justice School graduate from San Diego, California, and served as a command legal officer. He also served in different years as a curriculum developer, information system specialist, and aviation logistics and international supply chain. He is decorated combat veteran of the Iraqi War and has completed a long-term deployment in South Korea, Japan, and areas in the Middle East. Mario joined the GBIC team in Brownsville in August of 2018. Mario was born in Rio Bravo, Mexico, and raised in McAllen, Texas. Help me welcome Mario Lozoya.
All right, first I want to apologize for that lengthy intro. I didn't expect you guys to read the whole bio. I thought it was going to be a brief bio. But I also want to recognize my team. I see my team here, Laura, Elsa, and Carla, if you're going to stand up, and so people know who you are, so when they look for you. You saw Ramiro by the doors earlier. He left because we have a project that he had to go address, and he's hard at work. And I also think I saw Mr. Guerra here, one of our board members. Thank you, Mr. Guerra, for your service. And I do recognize that we have to update our video a little bit, in particular one picture, but we'll take care of that too. But thank you for this chamber, for putting this together. I think it's important, and I hope that we have the opportunity to update you, the people of Brownsville, as often as we can with the projects that we have, especially now at the beginning of the year, and as you know that the USMCA, some people call it NAFTA 2, was signed. And so we're already getting a lot of calls from the media and from investors about what that's going to look like. Obviously, we are yet to figure out what the immediate reaction is going to be in the border region, not only on this side of the border, but on the other side of the border. I see Luis Almanza here from the Tamaulipas Economic Development. Thank you for joining us, because your partnership is important to us, because we need to work as a region right together. So thank you for being here. If you don't know who he is, you want to raise your hand. So he's our contact for economic development opportunities out on the border region, on Tamaulipas specifically, so we work very closely with him. So what I have here is a quick presentation to show you what is it that GBEC does, the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation. It's a Type A organization, and if you're not familiar with that, please let me explain some of that. And if you know it already, just disregard my comments. But most communities in Texas either have one of two organizations, an EDO, Economic Development Organization, that's it's managed by parameters based on the tax code of Texas, right? So the tax code is probably a big book this big that probably very boring for you guys, unless you're an accountant and you like numbers. But so the organizations, BCIC, that Josh operates and ours, we operate through tax dollars, through sales tax dollars. So it's basically your tax dollars through the city, and so we are giving some of those dollars so that we can operate in an economic development space. And the parameters that we use are based on the Texas tax code. So the Type B organization operates out of those Type B parameters, and the Type A organization operates out of those Type A parameters. So the parameters that I have to operate in dictate, and so a lot of what I'm going to tell you here in a minute. So I think it's important for you to understand that we have two separate EDOs. One operates at a Type B parameters, and one operates at a Type A parameter. So we are the Type A, and the Type A pillars are typically around industry recruitment, bringing companies into the community, business retention expansion, that's expanding local companies, and then primary jobs, and then workforce training in those jobs for those projects, right? So essentially, those are the main areas that we operate in, and we're going to give you some examples of that, and to further explain what that is, because I think it's important for all of us together know what the tools that we have in our community and how we're using them, right? So here's a lot of what I said, most of it in text here. Obviously, you can see that we are Type A, and what's our missions, right? Our mission is business development, recruitment, like I said, expansion of local companies, and we'll show you some of those examples. And then the developing this economic environment, the prosperity through job creation and investment, right? So basically, when we court a company, either we're going to ask them to come to the region and consider the region. We then use our resources to incentivize them. Look, we have these incentives that we try to talk them into coming into our community in collaboration with BCIC, the city, and others, right? Or if it's a local company that wants to expand in this space, and we also have incentives for that company to expand, and we'll give you some of those examples as well. Okay, is this my clicker? It's not? Okay. So essentially these are, I call them KPIs, key performance indicators. We're trying to, in the work that we do, mitigate certain conditions. So these are I think we know some of these numbers. The 15,000 per capita is based on the 2010 census. That's basically what the average worker earns in Brownsville. Our mission is that if we're doing it right, and if we grow companies, and we bring companies, and we provide the right training, and our citizens are acquiring what I call the workforce of tomorrow, that's high pay, high demand, we should be able to move that needle. And that's our target. Our mission is to move that needle at some degree, right? So hopefully by the end of the year 2020, we can, and based on the 2020 census, that's why the 2020 census is important, that we can report a different number, right? I'm not saying that GBIC is the one that's going to solely change that number. I think collaboration between everybody, we should be able to make that happen. And then the next one is how can we, I'll show you some pictures later, but we work with the city on how do we use land use in Brownsville, right? If you know the Brownsville boundaries, some areas are zoned for housing, commercial zoning, and some zoning is for industrial, right? So how do we work with the city to make sure that we are meeting the city's targets based on overall land use, right? So if we need more space for industrial so that we can bring companies to assume those spaces, are we doing it at the right pace, at the right degree? So we want to make sure that we work with the city to meet those same targets. And then we're currently creating the baseline. We're in 2020, we'll create the data behind workforce. Where are we, and where do we need to be, and where do we need to go? based on the projects that we have. I mean, you guys hear about SpaceX, you hear about the LNGs coming, you hear about all these other things. Like, are we preparing our people to assume those jobs of tomorrow, right? So that's what I'm talking about, right? So, and all of that together, hopefully, will move the economic needle here in Brownsville. Okay. So here you go, type A economic development pillars, business recruitment. And again, we're talking about recruiting businesses and the business I'm talking about are type A related, not type B related. Type B, and you saw what Josh's focus is. So if for some reason we get a call or we get a client that is in BCIC space, we'll pass it on to Josh, and we'll work together on that project. And we work similarly if he gets one that's more in our wheelhouse, passes it on to us. So business recruitment is more relevant to industry type. Example would be an energy company, automotive part company, and the like, right? You heard of SATA, CK Technologies, I see it over here, and those kinds of companies are the ones that we would be dealing with. Business retention expansion is basically current businesses that are here that want to expand, right? Hopefully, with this USMCA, we do have some opportunities to help them expand as well. And then industrial development. So we'll cover some of those areas. Okay. All of this can't be done in the right way if our own citizens are not assuming those jobs, right? It really pains me, honestly, when I go to a advanced manufacturing company here locally and I start asking questions to the management. Who are those workers on the floor? Where do they come from? And the answer is typically, oh, they're from the region here. They're from Brownsville, Harlingen, and the area, right? But then when I ask, what about those that are fixing, the engineers that are fixing that robot and that advanced equipment, and they give me answers like, oh, we bring them in from Ohio, or we bring them in from Kentucky or Indiana. That's no good. Those should be your children, if not you, your children or your neighbors, and basically people in our own backyard should be assuming those jobs that are high pay, right? So we need to have a strong education and workforce strategy so that we can make that happen. And then also in administration, who's in charge here? Who does the administrative? Who's the HR? Who's the accounting? And they give me answers that are not, relevant to Brownsville. That's no good. We want those people to have our background, our culture, and our ability to assume those jobs that I'm talking about. So we created this. We grow our own strategy. Some of you are part of it. So I see some faces that joined that initiative, and essentially. What it is on the top, it shows the entire continuum of the community from little kids, pre-K, all the way to the adult layer. And then on the left, the orange boxes are all our partners, from chambers to associations. Manufacturing Association, for example, is one of them. The school districts, the community college, university, and other partners, banks, you name it, nonprofits. And what are they doing to mitigate some of the targets that we're talking about? Some of the targets that we want to mitigate for workforce development are the digital divide, that you heard about before, the awareness. So we see some students, they're like, we don't even know what's available, so we don't even know what kind of courses we should be taking, right? So creating that awareness at a younger age so that we can put them in the right path. And then also the skills gap. We do have, you saw some numbers earlier about the human capital that we have in Brownsville. It's a huge advantage that we have here, that we have a young workforce, that we have a lot of human capital, and the demographics are growing. However, we want to make sure that they're skilled and they're trained, so they do assume the workforce of tomorrow. So those are the targets, and we've asked all these partners that have signed up to help us create activities that mitigate those targets. For example, we've asked BISD to increase the robotics teams, right? And I'll give you the news that last school year, there were 0 children in robotics teams in BISD. This school year, there's 198 students in robotics teams. That's what I'm talking about, right? So what are we doing that's relevant in our community that fits this space, right? And that's just one of many examples that I can tell you. I'll also tell you that the city has taken the digital divide. I'm glad the mayor was here, and he's made it a priority, and I see the city manager back there, Noel. So they made it a priority that the digital divide is one of those inhibitors of education and workforce development, amongst other things, right? The smart city concept and others, right? But in this particular space that I'm talking about, that is one of the many hurdles that we are talking about. So they've made it a point to make it a priority, because they know that's an issue that we need to address here in Brownsville. So that's just an example of how we collaborate as a community to mitigate this particular condition, right? So the next step is to scale it. Once we know the process, to scale it, how can we increase the partnerships and then even pass it on to other areas? And so this picture on the right, that's the PTech. If you don't know what that is, it's Pathway for Technology in Early College High School. I think a lot of you maybe took dual credit classes in high school, or maybe your children are taking dual credits in high schools, but typically those dual credits are in academia, dual credit English, dual credit history, right? But not in technology. So P-Tech is pathway for technologies in early college high schools, right? So the bill was passed about 2 sessions ago, legislative sessions ago, that allows high school students to engage in programs and get them dual credit. So the idea is for a high school student to graduate with a high school diploma and an AA degree in a technical field. To do that, you have to create programs at the ISD in partnership with the community colleges, right? So we have those MOUs already with the ISDs and with our local community college, TSC. Porter High School is focused in advanced manufacturing P-Tech, and Hanna High School is focused in medical related P-Tech. And this year they're applying, Pace High School is applying for an IT cybersecurity P-Tech. So the idea is that all 6 schools will eventually have the opportunity to graduate students with an AA degree in a technical field. Again, the idea is to grow our own and have them assume the workforce of tomorrow based on the projects that we bring in. See how that works? Right, okay, so next one. So in terms of recruitment, okay, in recruitment, we have 22 working projects. Most of these projects are typically confidential. I mean, you're talking about a project that of a different degree, different sizes, but in a site selection process, if you're not familiar with it, it's literally a site selection. There's several sites that they look at. In some cases, in multiple states, Louisiana is always in competition with us because we're on the Gulf Coast. Louisiana, or maybe in just another state, Arizona, and maybe a company says, I'm gonna go somewhere on the border, but we don't know where. So they send their folks to do site selections, right? So when they come visit us, they ask questions like, what is your workforce like? What is the demographics like? Are you a safe community? Do you have land? What is your power rate, utility rates? Do you have water? Do you have all these other questions, right? And hopefully we start getting them all to be checks. If in the event we have some excess and another community has a bunch of checks, guess what? They're probably gonna go to the other community. So that's our role, is try to work with the community to make sure that we are ready for all those projects. So currently we have 22 projects that we're working in this site selection process. Okay, next one. And this one is a real project, right? So to give you an example of those 22, what does one look like? I think it helps you, the public, understand what that would look like. So in this particular case, Project Stone would provide over 100 jobs. Typically, when they come and they don't give you the full information, and they don't disclose completely, but they kind of take it a little low. I'm hoping that if we land this project, it's actually more jobs, but they come in low. So 100 jobs, $18 an hour. That kind of activity, obviously, we want it because it's going to move the per capita income rate that we talked about. Proposed payroll then would be over $3 million. So those of you who understand about tax when you're paying your mortgage, right? Some taxes go to the community college, some goes to the ISD, some goes to the city, the county, right? So you can do the math. I think this community is about 2.6% or so. So the tax from the property investment of $30 million or so would then come back to us, to the city, which then some of it comes back to us, BCIC and GBIC, so that we can continue doing the work that we do. That's how the cycle works, right? So the estimated tax rolls would be $781,000 a year for this particular project. So you multiply that times the amount of projects that we have, or in different sizes and different degrees, you can start seeing how economic development wheels and rolls, right? How we start creating income here in the community. So then the city then can use those dollars for downtown revitalization, for better roads, for police and fire. So that's how the system works. So in this case, I'm showing you at least what this kind of project would bring. That's just one project, right? Okay, next. So from a business retention and expansion, so the last one I just showed you was recruiting. These are companies that are not in town. Now we're moving into BRE, business retention and expansion. These are companies that are in town, right? So Carla here, what she does is she goes and visits all these companies. Right now we have a list of about 90. So her target is that within 2020, she has to visit those 90 companies. She visits those companies and asks questions like, what is your workforce like? What is your workforce gap? How can we help you increase your workforce training for our people? Why do you have people coming in from Indiana, Ohio when you can have people from our programs, right? So those kinds of questions. And also, are you interested in expanding? What is your, what's your idea? So from that, from those visits last year in 2019, you can see the numbers. we created 6 expansion projects. It's amazing, right? So we're talking about local people that are already in town and they want to grow. So we 6 expansion projects, and from those, we acquired 3 skill development grants. What does that mean? That means that Workforce Commission, I see the workforce is here somewhere. I thought Pat Hobbs is over there. So from Workforce Solutions and Workforce Commission of the state, we asked them, we have a company here that wants to increase their workforce, but they want to skill up a certain layer of their workforce, scale them up for higher pay, so we can hire others and replace them. That's what we want, right? So the skills development grant gives money to that company to help them create that process, right? So it's no cost to us, so why shouldn't we capitalize on those kinds of projects? We've seen more and more of those opportunities here. We wouldn't have that without a BRE program. Okay? Next. So this is an example of a real BRE program, an expansion program. Project Text will increase by 50 jobs at the hourly rate, and you can see the payroll and you can see the estimated tax rolls, right? So this is added to what they already have today. If they expand by that amount, it'll be an added tax roll. So between the recruiting and the BRE together, you can see how GBIC works to expand the tax base of the community, okay? So we have I call it a small industrial park. It's over by this road next to CK Technologies and Cardona and all that. It's about 73-acre park. You can see the lots. We already have some commitment, some letters of interest on some of those lots. So our hope is that we start putting some companies in there in 2020. Okay. And then we have a larger area here, 491 acres. We're working with the city to make sure that it fits within the land use that we were talking about. We want to make sure that we have the right zoning and the like. And we already have one of the projects that we talked about earlier from recruiting, Project Stone, I give you that example, are looking into potentially moving in this area as one of the selection, right? So they do have some activity in other states. Though the site selection process here would be here, and hopefully we get them to come here and not to another state. So can you come back? Can you go back? What we like about this is that it's on the 511 corridor. I learned that in 2019, that 511 corridor became now I-169, which is close to I-69, right? So it's designated 169. It's designated an overweight corridor, which is huge for logistics. On the bottom of the property, it's rail. So we have the rail. So big companies are interested in overweight corridor, access to interstate, 6 miles away from the port, and rail access. And across the street on the north side is PUB. So PUB has the water plant and their maintenance yard. So it's very appealing for these kinds of projects. So hopefully we bring some projects in there, and hopefully here in the near future we're able to announce some of those projects. Okay? So direct impact. Here's one that we closed here recently. I see Griselda over there. I hope you don't mind. Griselda just yell at me. But so they have 292 jobs, and you know we sat with them about a year ago or so, and because they wanted to expand as one of our projects, and I'll tell you that we negotiated a deal where they would grow by about 120 jobs or so at 30 or 40 jobs a year, year 1, year 2, year 3. We just started year 2 of that contract, and I'll tell you that they already exceeded year 3. So they already hired more than what they said they were going to hire. In my opinion, they are a stellar example of what we're looking at for expanding local companies. I talked to you earlier about what the city of Brownsville taxes, county, the ISD, and so forth. That's public. And you can see how an investment like this will create, what kind of dollars does it create, right? And this is just direct jobs from that company. It's not counting logistics jobs that when you add more logistics to it and indirect jobs and then retail, and on top of that, it's just exponential and it grows big time, right? So it's really more to the story. I'm just telling you exactly the direct impact of one company expanding in Brownsville, okay? So there's our information, but I also wanted to give you a little bit more information that we're able to disclose. When we came back from the holidays, obviously, like most of you, you probably have like 1,000 emails because you have been trying to ignore your email, right? Because you have so much and you're trying to enjoy the holidays. So we came back from the holidays and we started going through emails, and we noticed an invitation from Select USA. Select USA is is an organization that has conferences around the country for site selectors from around the world to come and hopefully invest in the United States, right? There's conferences in different parts of the country, Las Vegas, Dallas, and the like, Chicago. And as you know, maybe when you travel somewhere, you might want to travel, I'll make it easy. You travel to San Antonio, you're going to go see the Alamo. But while you're there, you might want to go to the Riverwalk, or you might want to go downtown. You might want to go do something else, right? You actually add to your agenda. Similarly, in these site selection events, there might be some companies from Japan, China, or even within the United States, California and the like. They come, let's say, Chicago. But while they come there, they might want to visit some other site for investment opportunities. So Select USA invited us to apply to be a spin-off event of their main event in June the 3rd. Spin-off event means that if a company, for example, let's say Germany comes to the event, and they say, you know, while we're in the US, we might want to visit a site that fits our investment. If their investment is in energy, for example, or their investment is in aerospace, for example. So we say, yeah, let's apply to this. But when I read the email, the deadline was that day. So the team got together, we put the application together, we sent it like an hour before application closed, and just 2 days ago, we got the notice that we've been selected for a spin-off event. So it's really good news, thank you. It's really good news because when they formulate their agenda for June the 3rd, and they have companies or investors in energy, aerospace, manufacturing and the like, you get to select which ones you might want to entertain in your spinoff, and then they get invited, right? And if they say, yeah, we want to go to Brownsville. So the fact that we've been selected as a spinoff, the fact that the USMCA got signed just a couple of days ago is really drawing a lot of attention to the border region. So we think, and then we did the search. There's going to be 15 spinoffs in 2020. Brownsville will be one of them. We're the only one in the border region. It's a huge opportunity, right? So if, cross your fingers, you know, hopefully when Select USA sends out the information that Brownsville is open for business, that the city, the airport, the BCIC, GBIC, and the people of Brownsville are ready to entertain them. And hopefully somebody says, yeah, I want to go to Brownsville. We're going to bring them. We're going to let you know. And we're going to have an event here. We're going to accept them with open arms. We're going to talk to them about why they should come to Brownsville, why should they come to this region, because we're open for business. And as you see the presentations today between the city, the BCIC, and GBIC, we are open for business, but we can't do it alone. We need your help, because together we can go places. So thank you for everything. We'll be around here to answer any questions you might have.
Aren't we excited? You don't sound excited. Are we excited about Brownsville? Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know we're running late, but it is important that we offer you the opportunity and platform to ask questions. That's our goal today. So we do have the team here present, Adam and Gerardo, with their microphones. I now ask that you please raise your hand, state your name and company, and ask and approach any questions at this time. Wow, no one. Impressive. Yes, we have one. Adam, Gerardo, thank you.
In your consideration for the Grow Your Own initiative there, please consider the historic aspect. Shortly from now, I'm starting a 501c3, and it'll be a historical research management firm. Now, doesn't that fit? And especially when you have site selection, if you show the historic elements of Brownsville that we can be very, very proud of, we want to be a part of that. So please consider that.
Thank you. Any further questions? Or Mr. Lozoya, you have a comment, sir? Thank you. Anyone else at the moment has any other question? Going once, twice? No? Yay. So before we adjourn, oh, we have another question? Oh, comment? Helen, thank you.
So March 12th, put it on your calendar, save the date. We'll send out the location. It's going to be on Market Square. You'll have the opportunity, if you want to join us with developer meet and greet. You'll be able to see one of the redevelopment projects in our historic downtown and get a first view of what they're planning, and hopefully you can be able to see kind of the before and after. So it's kind of a sneak peek of what's to come in our downtown redevelopment. So please sign up. Thanks.
Thank you, Helen. Before we adjourn, I would like to take the time to thank our great leaders, our Brownsville Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors, our GBIC and BCIC Board of Directors. Thank you for your support. We have one more question.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe in the future, if we could talk a little bit more about tourism, what we're going to do, plans for picking up tourism here in Brownsville.
Absolutely. It's actually one of the sessions we have planned for 2020. Thank you. We appreciate that, William. No more hands, no more questions. Wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to lastly thank the great and wonderful team at the Brownsville Chamber of Commerce, the professional team for the Brownsville Event Center, and the great team from Brownsville TV, and of course, James and his team. Thank you very much. These are the people that make things happen today. Once again, on behalf of your chamber, thank you for coming. Have a blessed Friday. This adjourns our program.